We're going to talk about a few things. While we're getting started, I'm going to tell Photoshop to open up. And we're going to talk about some text animator things.
Hey, John.
And a lot of this is going to be stuff that is either, well, I'll say some gotchas and some stuff that has to do with
Gotcha.
Yeah, gotcha. Some stuff that's just easy ways to animate text inside After Effects, okay? Then we'll move on to shape layers after that. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up a text document here. I'm just going to make it 1280 by 720. And I don't need to do that. I'm just going to make this background black. And with my text tool here, I'm going to type in, this is text. And I'm going to do another one of these with changing my point size to 100 points. I'll put that here. This, are we doing it there? Come on. How about we delete that? We start over. Well, that one's going to be 100 points, apparently. And all right, so let's try this again with the text tool. Make this smaller. Set this to 12, like that. We'll do one more here.
Yeah,
we'll call this the smallest. And this one is going to be 1 point. All right. So there are times, friends, when you're going to get something from a designer in Photoshop, or you yourself are going to design something in Photoshop that you will bring into After Effects. And you will start with your text as the very last size of text that you put into Photoshop. And then you're going to do Command T, and you're going to grab your text, and you're going to go like this. Except it won't look like that. It'll look like this. So you're going to go like that, and you're going to go, okay, that is the correct size. And then you're going to come to this other piece that is, this is smaller. And I'm just grabbing the anchor point on the corner, and I'll hold Shift and not Command, it's Shift and Option. And it's going to scale. Shift helps it scale relatively, and Option makes it scale around the anchor point. Okay, so it's keeping its, instead of being height and width independent, it's maintaining its shape. Okay, then I'll hit Return. I have my text, and I'll do File, Save As. We'll just here make a folder for 2016 meeting, like that. Say assets. This is my text PSD. And currently we're done with Photoshop. So we'll come into After Effects and we'll import this guy. If you're on a Mac and you pop into some random folder and you want to get to your desktop, you can do Shift Command D. That'll get you there. Also, if you have your file open in a window on the desktop, you can leave your window, your import window open, go to your desktop and your file here like this, and grab your file, drag it into this window here, and it'll populate that, get it ready to import. Okay, just so you know those things exist. So I'll hit Open. We're not we're not going to do footage. We're going to do composition, retain layer sizes, and hit OK. So this is text that came in from Photoshop text. I'll hit enter, and here we go. So on the surface of this, everything looks okay. If I zoom in and I go with my full resolution, all my text looks pretty good, okay? However, what you'll notice is if I twirl down my scale here, everything is 100%, but my oh, that's because I haven't converted shapes to text or Photoshop layers to text. Now, watch this 100% over here. Convert to editable text. You know you can do this, right? Okay. This is going to help you. It keeps you from having to rebuild your text from Photoshop in After Effects. All right.
That only works with Photoshop text layers?
Yes. I don't think it works with Illustrator text layers. We could test that if you really wanted to, but that might be a extracurricular kind of thing for you to do. All right, so you saw that my layers had scale of 100%, right? Each of them had scale of 100%. So if I hit S here, now you see that the one that was created at 100 pixel point size is 100%. The one that was the smallest was 1 point. You see up here, 1 point, and it was scaled up to be as big as I wanted it. And then this is smaller, 12 points, and scaled up to about 510%. Now, I'll tell you that the way I work this out is I would just take the smallest text here. If I want to match that, duplicate. So I have my template of what the text is supposed to look like. Set it to 100% on scale and scale until I get to the right size. Now, there is roughly probably some math you can do here to get you there. But that works just fine. The reason we're going to do that is because with this guy here, I will show you what happens. This is a, Jeremy, you want to say it loud for me? Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this is a gotcha. If I twirl down text animators here, I'm going to animate the position of this text. I'll have it, let's just start up here, and I'm going to have it kind of drift up, each letter drift up into place. I have my position, and I'll show you just how I immediately set up text animators when I apply one. I go to my range selector, and I offset -100, okay? Then depending on what I want to do, I'll use characters this time, but I'll adjust here, characters, words, or lines. And then I go straight to the shape as ramp up. And I'll do my ease low to 100. And I'll go back to offset and set a keyframe. And I'll move over a little bit like that and scoot this to 100%, okay? That's how I start. Sometimes I wait until later to do this last keyframe, but it is important to have the -100 and 100 keyframes because you're telling the text animator at -100 for this ramp up, I want you to do whatever happens down here, this position or rotation or blur or whatever happens. All right, so I moved just 20 pixels and the thing went nuts. So I'll come back here and we'll get to like, let's say 2 pixels. And if I move from -100 to 100, then you can see the text animator does what it's supposed to do. Just to kind of make it clean, I'll set my opacity to 0. And again, whatever is down here in this area, the text animator set to ramp up will move from offset -100 as the starting position to the final position, which is ground 0 for my text. Okay, status quo. And you can see that with just adjusting a couple things with a couple keyframes, I've smoothly animated my text into place. Now, the reason that's a problem is because I had a project that we were trying to update for our customers to be able to download the After Effects projects and use the, do a retitle of their own if they want to. And we had a blur on there. So the blur, we'll just go ahead and add a blur here. The blur, if I just do 1 pixel here, the blur goes nuts, all right? And if I were to go up to 20 or 15, whatever, let's do 11, the blur is just crazy, okay? What was happening is the text was blurring out at a certain point, and the render would stop every time. 12 seconds in, render stops. Because After Effects can only do so much, guys. After Effects isn't going to clean your floors. After Effects isn't going to drive you to soccer practice. After Effects can only do so much. It only has a buffer
But it can pay the bills.
so large. After Effects can pay the bills. But it
And it can make you stinking famous.
make you famous, but it can't wash your clothes. So just remember, After Effects has limitations. And the big limitation for this scenario is the buffer size. At a certain point, the buffer was just overflowing with these blur pixels, okay? And it was shutting down the render. I don't think RAM can fix that for you. I don't think bigger processors can fix that for you. I think it's just a limitation of the software. So the whole reason for me showing you this is to say, if your text comes in with a scale that is, and I think the one that we had was like, the scale was like 16,000 or something crazy like that. Because the designer had just dropped it into Photoshop, dropped the text into Photoshop and scaled it up inside there and then passed it on to After Effects. And currently, I could be wrong with 2015, but to my knowledge, if you bring over text like that from Photoshop to After Effects, it doesn't adjust for scale versus pixel size. Okay, it may look correct in Photoshop, but it does not adjust for that inside After Effects. So the fix for that is to, we'll just do it again since we are, repetition is going to help us. I'm just going to go here to my text animator, do position, and you'll see the difference when we start doing this. Okay, does everybody remember what I do? I come here and I set my first keyframe for my offset at -100, like that. And you can see up here, if you look, this little indicator is telling you that your offset is going to the opposite end of the text. All right. And we're going to do characters. We're going to do ramp up 100% for my easing, because I like a nice smooth ease. Smooth ease would be a good, like, laxative brand. And then when I do this position, you'll see if I punch 1 pixel there, not much happens. You kind of maybe see that something's happening, but I've really got to crank it here because I'm on my actual pixels. All right. And then we'll do blur so you can see what that does. Remember, when I clicked 1 pixel for the blur last time, it just fuzzed out. There's 1 right there, and it's not fuzzed out. So I've got to really crank it up like that. And it's a lot more intuitive to say, okay, I can handle a 30 pixel blur now. I know what, I kind of feel in my heart what a 30 pixel blur is supposed to be, and that looks about like a 30 pixel blur.
Okay, can you say how to get to that again? Because I was busy writing notes.
Oh, yes, sure. So I'll just select the blur and delete it. And it's like the exact same space where I get the rest of these from. If you want to create an animator, text animator, you go here to this drop-down menu and you add one of these things. If you want to have a text animator and add to the properties inside that text animator, you click to this add, and I'll go down, way down here to blur. Click that right there.
Okay, nice.
You're welcome. Scoot this up. All right, so we have our blur. I'll go to 30 pixels like that. And we'll scoot over here and do our offset to 100%, because that takes us back to the origin of the text. All the settings are null. And we can see, I'll just hide Shift Command H, and I'll hide my bounding boxes. Okay, and I'll add here opacity and drop my opacity to 0. So now if I just hit play, it's nice and easy. It looks about like this other one did, but the settings are a lot friendlier now. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Everybody's following?
Good.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So you didn't keyframe your opacity or blur.
Mm-mm.
How does it know what your end value should be?
The end value is null. Okay.
He's working backwards.
Yeah. So whatever I am at 100% here is everything. I'll just hit here reset and reset and reset. Those 3 values, 0, 100%, and 0 and blur, those are my status quo. Okay, those are when you're done and everything is moved off of this, that's what you look like. Okay? So then when I go back to my -100, I can set all this stuff up here. I can take my text down like that, or I could, let's add 3D. Okay? So instead of my text being just X and Y, I can pull it toward the camera like that, make it a little bigger. My opacity, let's do the blur first.
I'm sorry, did you just add another position?
Yes, I added enable per character 3D.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it gave me the Z position on there. Minus Z comes toward the camera. And then I've got my blur pretty good there. And then I would take my opacity down. So this -100 here is all of these fully active. Okay, does that make sense?
Okay.
We got it? And then if I'm using ramp up here, and I scroll over here, then 100% is all of these properties fully off.
Okay.
Okay?
So they're tied to the offset then?
Yes, everything is tied to the offset. Now I can change where all of it happens by adjusting inside here. If you look at the bounding box, you can see that I can change where all these things adjust. So I've kind of squeezed it in a little bit, and it'll move over and almost do per letter. Like that. I can spread those back out, and it's not a little, it's a lot smoother. Everything comes in a little more ramped. Like that. And just because we're sitting here doing this, I will tell you that you can add you can have a stroke and add stroke width. So I'm going to add a stroke to that, and we'll just see like that, and do stroke width here. Let's go back, maybe add that to 1.
You're at 100%. So
Sorry. Yeah, okay, good. Perfect. Let's see if I go back to 0. Does that still keep it stroke? Yeah. So the stroke's still there. John, you're getting it. Okay. So now, if I think maybe 50 is too much. Now, when it blurs out, it doesn't go away. All right. So there, if you look at these guys that are blurry up here, if I take that all the way to 0, you can see that the blur basically eats away at them. But if I add that stroke back in, then the stroke goes away as it builds, but I'm able to kind of maintain that blur.
that is cool.
Okay. And that would basically, I could transfer this guy as a package to anything else I'm using. Okay, so this text here, I just select that, do Command V for paste, and my animator pops in. Wherever I am with my time marker, it puts the keyframes there and saves that. Okay, and if your text is always 100% scale and correctly point sized over here, then your text animators will transfer between text layers properly. Right? If I come to this guy and his scale is 510, let's see what happens to him. If I come here and hit paste, so there, the keyframes are in the same spot. All the settings are the same. But you'll see that there's a big difference. The text moves way farther on the Z-axis. It gets way blurrier.
It's because it's multiplying using that scaling factor.
Correct. Right there is 510. Okay. Does that make sense, everybody? Yes, sir.
Did test, I couldn't turn Illustrator into convertible text.
You could not do it.
Could not.
Okay. Thank you. Live testing by Steve. Thank you, Steve.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So when would you want to keyframe those, whatever you want to call them, modifiers, or what are the animated effects or whatever?
Let's see. Let's go here. And let's say that for this text here, we want everything to kind of come in quickly at the beginning and then slowly ramp at the end. Okay. So what we can do is we'll add per character 3D, because we're going to bring it toward us. We'll add position. And I'll just set it up like I normally do. I'll minus 100, make a keyframe. Come down here, all the way to 100. That's my status quo. And then I'll bring this toward me. If it will, oh, got to do ramp up. Okay. So the difference there is that ramp up goes from these settings here, these property settings, to the status quo. Ramp down goes from the status quo to the settings. Square kind of, it starts on one side and applies across. And then all the others, triangle, round, and smooth, do the same thing, just with different kind of shapes. Okay. So typically, I'm going to use ramp up and ramp down exclusively, almost exclusively, unless I'm trying to get some kind of interesting thing to happen in the middle of the animation. All right. So we have our move here. We're going to add a little bit of smoothing, or all of the smoothing.
A little bit.
Yeah. And then just to see what happens, we'll take this 100 and set it to 10, like that. And we have a keyframe, but right now it's just going to move across. Okay. Okay. See what's happening with the letters? They're going basically one at a time. All right. So we'll move this over to 100 like that at the end. And if we ram preview this, maybe we'll bring this here so we get a little bit more of a smooth ramp on there. So you can see like WEL kind of go one at a time, and then it ramps down as we get closer over there. Trying to think of some other scenarios where I would do that.
So start and end, just determine if it's going to be individual or the whole thing.
Yes, you can narrow your focus
Okay.
on the letters.
Does start work against end?
Like, can you swap them?
Yeah.
And what does it do?
I guess I don't fully grasp how that works.
Yeah, so we'll swap them like that. You can see what happens.
I've used it to select a word and make the word grow in a sentence or a phrase.
Okay. Like it helps you focus.
This reminds me of the type styler. Did you ever use that?
I used live type, but not type styler. And honestly, guys, get yourself a baseline. Figure out how to use it like this. Go test it on your own. We'll do a ramp down in just a minute, so we can show you how text would come in and then go out. But get kind of a baseline here, and then just mess with it. Okay. You have questions,
Can I see how that example
you
looks?
let me know. This one right here.
Can you play it, please?
Yep. It's kind of herky jerky.
Okay. Thanks.
It actually looks like it didn't matter that I switched the start and end. It looks like it's going to work the same way.
To be frank, it looks a lot better. I mean, in my opinion, it looks a lot better than the Photoshop file. And this, I mean, one thing that's been left out to be said is that I mean, I stopped in my workflow. I stopped using Photoshop text. You know, everybody knows about vectors.
Yeah.
And so But I do like the way these animators are looking at these more vector text. I like the flow. I like the
Mhm.
I like the movement of it.
Yeah.
And it makes it, like I said, it reminds me of type style.
If you use Final Cut Pro has the ability to do things like this. If you've missed that so far, go check it out because it's pretty cool that Final Cut can do this kind of stuff. Okay, we have text that enters, and we're going to have the text go away in kind of a looping fashion. So it'll come in, go away, and then be able to come back in looped. And we're going to do something in the middle, just so you can see some extra stuff. The first thing I'm going to do is just duplicate my animator. Okay, I've already got this intro set up. It comes from close to the camera at 0% opacity, fades in left to right, and I just want it to come back toward the camera, at least to start with, back toward the camera from left to right, okay? And I'll show you what I mean and why I'm doing that. So I'm just going to duplicate my text animator, and I hit U to reveal my keyframes. Scoot this guy over like this, and now I will do UU. Roll down all of my properties that have been adjusted since I created this layer, and change, instead of ramp up, I'll change this to ramp down. Okay, so immediately you're able to see the text again, right? That's because this 100% on Animator 1 with a ramp up is the status quo. And with ramp down, the 100%, the minus 100% is the status quo. All right, 100% is status quo on a ramp up. Negative 100% is status quo on a ramp down. Okay, so I didn't change my keyframes. I didn't say, like you can come up here to Keyframe Assistant, time reverse keyframes. I didn't have to do that. I just duplicated this, scooted my keyframes over, and changed from ramp up to ramp down. Okay, and it looks like this. So the text comes in, fades in left to right, and then fades back out left to right. I don't want to.
How'd you make it go from left to right on the fade out?
Just all I did was change it to ramp down.
Okay.
Okay, I scooted the keyframes over and changed it to ramp down. And ramp down takes my text and just kind of reverses it. It doesn't invert the animation. It continues the flow of the animation, right? So when you're doing, when you're using text animators, an example of this could be like, glad you're here. And I'll do a text animator that will change the position, offset negative 100. That, I'll just solo this layer. Positive 100. That, and I'll do ramp up, change my position. Sorry, I'll go back to minus 100. Change my position. We'll just scoot everything off the screen like that. And you see how everything comes on. All right. To me, that's confusing. All right. I could just change it to the other side of the screen. Like that. And then everything comes in correctly one word at a time. But then I'll set my easing. If I do that and duplicate this guy, and I want it to move off the screen, I'll just get my keyframes, scoot them over here like this. And I want them to go minus 1080. And ramp down. Okay. So currently they are ramp up. All right. So if I wanted them to move off screen with ramp up, I would have to select this, time reverse my keyframes. So they'll start on the screen and move off. But again, the words are moving on top of each other. So they come in, glad you're here, and they move off, here you're glad. But I don't want that. I want them, we'll just rebuild it. Text animators here, I'll duplicate, twirl down like this. And because negative 100 is for ramp down, status quo, I just changed to ramp down, change my position to negative 1080. Now they move off, word on the left first, middle last, okay? So then, text maintains a flow, all right? So it's flowing from left to right, stopping in the center, and then continuing the flow left to right. If you flow in and then flow back out the same way, you can do it. I don't recommend it because it looks like a rubber band is controlling your text.
Would you just adjust the start and end?
We'll go.
Is that one way to make it go back from whence it came?
I would,
Opposite.
if I do ramp down like that.
Oh, it's already
Nope.
naturally doing it.
It's naturally doing that with ramp down, but in order to get it to go back off in order, I would need to change my keyframes, time reverse my keyframes. Okay, so remember that for ramp up, 100% in the offset is status quo, and I want it to start before it leaves. I want it to be at status quo and then move to whatever my position is.
Right.
Okay. But now if we look at this, it looks like my text is bungee jumping from off screen. So it goes off, comes back on. I don't know if this is a humble opinion. It might be a very proud opinion. But in my opinion, that looks unprofessional, okay? For your text to go off and then sweep back on. Unless you got some reason, I mean, you do a cash register thing where it's like, you know, be intentional about stuff. Don't just let After Effects do what After Effects is doing. Be intentional about it, and have your text flow. So if your text comes in from behind the camera, have it continue flowing forward and then shoot off. If it comes from the distance and builds, and have it keep going and move past the camera. That kind of stuff. Okay, does that make sense? Everybody with me? And then we'll just do. Let's go back to welcome. And we're going to have the text flash randomly as it sits here. I'll hit UU and twirl down my text animators. I'm going to add one more. It doesn't matter what your order of your text animators are in, as long as your percentages here on your offset are in the correct spot. Okay? As long as your keyframes here are doing what they need to do, it doesn't matter. It's not necessarily additive for your text animators to stack one on top of the other. You can have them arranged however you want. So I'll just do another animator, and this one is going to be opacity. Did it do it? Or did it add it there? I think you just added it there. Sorry, text opacity. Okay, now we have text animator 3. And we can even change the names here. We can call this animate in, animate out, so we can keep them. If you have a few text animators on there, you want to keep it from being confusing, you can rename them. We're going to call this flashes. And just scroll up a little bit, and we have opacity. Scroll down, and we're going to offset to -100. From here to +100. And we're going to use something different this time. We can use square, we can use triangle or smooth. Let's just see what happens if we use square. Okay, so you can see that it's taking away and building back in. All right. Now, if we do add here, or instead of add, we do subtract, you can see that nothing is there. It comes across like that. We can even do, let's see, triangle. Let's see what that does. I'll undo my bounding boxes so you can see. All right, so what does that look like to you guys? What am I building toward right there? Just accidentally here.
Flashlight.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a flashlight's moving across there. Or
It's kind of like a scrolling marquee.
yeah, or like a, like, you know, you put text in and you want to have kind of a glow go across it.
Yeah.
You could just keep your same text, drop this on there, and, you know, maybe you put a blur on it. Like, we have this text, and we get rid of flashes there, and put a blur on this, like that. And now we have a little glow going across there. All right. Okay. So we're going to get back to the task at hand. So there's a little bit of a ramp there. So the W is not all the way gone. The M and the E are kind of coming in. And then square, there's no real ramp. It's just almost it's on or it's off kind of thing. But we have a random option here. So we'll click on random like that.
Can you change the random seed of that?
You can, but instead of subtract, we'll go back to add here. And maybe our opacity doesn't do. All right. So here we go, random seed. I can change that. Yeah. So if a fun way to use expressions is I can do something like this and add an expression here that says seed. No, I don't even think I need to do that. I think I just need to do index like that. So it reads the index number here and puts that in for the random seed right there. Okay. So then if I duplicate this, it uses a different index number and gives me a different random seed. Duplicate. There's a different random seed. Duplicate. Okay, so I've got a different random seed every time by just putting an index. So we can see that builds in, and then it goes, well, pow, 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 like that. That makes me feel like I'm going to be assimilated somehow. I don't know.
Reminds me of like a game show or something.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that movie Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got that, and we're kind of working toward this whole idea of the start and the end position. So I'm going to take this and move it to the C and move this over. Well, let's do 50 and 55 and see what that does. All right.
What was preventing it from going all the way off?
The best.
Say that one more time.
Well, when you
From fading all the way out,
yeah,
I changed my opacity to 28 instead of 0.
so that's the lowest you can go.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay. Good question. All right, so we'll play through a little bit. It needs to be a little more dramatic. Sorry about that. But I think what you're seeing is that changing this guy is causing it to not have as much of an effect. Okay, so we're in, and then pew, 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 pew. And we're out. Okay. One more thing here would be
Now you just need a word below it that says Earthlings.
welcome Earthlings. Okay, we're gonna put Earthlings down there. And we'll start from scratch here with, what is this text over here? Help back. We'll duplicate this text. How about that? And then this is going to be Earthlings. And I'm going to copy out of there, double click, and paste my text in. I'll twirl down with UU. I'll twirl down all of my animated properties. And just to start from scratch so you guys can see
Hey,
how we do it again. We're going to go Earthlings, but instead of doing it the same way, we're going to make it fun. We're going to make it happy. Like, we don't want the Earthlings to know that we're coming to take over and make them our slaves. So we're going to make it a happy thing. And we'll say position. I don't need my per character 3D right now, so I'll turn that off.
For now.
For now. We're going to do ramp up like this. And characters, we have a position. I'll do minus 100 and set my keyframe. And we'll go to about right there. Scoot over. And the timeline and keyframe at 100. That's my status quo for that. But my status quo is going to be a little bit higher. So I'm going to put that up a tiny bit because I'm going to have this text come in, ramp up, and then settle into place. Okay, so it's going to overshoot and then come back in. But I need, for this particular setup, I'm going to need 2 text animators on this one layer. All right, so we're going to take our text at -100 and on our offset, we're going to take it off the screen there. You can see that it ramps in like that. But I want it to ramp into just a little bit lower again. So I'm going to duplicate my animator. And you can actually get some fun things happening if you double up animators, just so you know that. But instead of, and I'll actually set it up over here. Instead of animating to the sorry, instead of animating just straight up to that position there, we're going to go up and then we're going to come down. So I actually need to do a ramp down on this one. because I'm going to move it in from left to right. All right, so we'll turn this back on, and this value only needs to go down a little bit, like 20 pixels maybe. That's not, oh, sorry, that needs to be 100. This needs to be 20 pixels. Come up here, and it's going to settle down. See what I'm doing? Maybe we need to go a little bit more. But in order to make that happen, okay, see what it's doing? And this is, I'm going to change that to 100 as well. No, maybe not. So we have two text animators that are working in tandem and almost against each other to get me this result. Welcome, Earthlings.
You're gonna be our pets.
Okay. And then what's going to make that a little smoother? Looks a little bit smoother, like that. Then what do we do in the middle here? We could maybe, we have here flashes. We can copy flashes and paste flashes on here. Like that. And then let's just say we want the text to go back out kind of the same way it came in. So we'll duplicate that animator. Out. And pop quiz. Anybody know what I need to do?
Ramp down.
Ramp down. And just move my keyframes over here.
You need to duplicate both of them so you can do that.
I could do that, yeah. So we'll look at this first, and then we'll see what it would look like to do that.
The Earthlings just needs to fade out on the way down.
Needs to fade out. What's the line from Highlander? They're gonna burn out, fade away, something like that. So it's going too far, yeah.
What does it look like they're doing?
There you go.
Nice.
All right, so now, Steve, you wanted it to go up a little bit?
Well, I guess I was just thinking if you.
If it came in that way, why don't we send it out that way?
Well, yeah, that's how you would do it, right? You would just duplicate both of them and reverse their keyframes to make it do exactly the opposite of how it came in.
Let's see. So this is, it needs to be, the little nudge needs to happen first.
Right.
So this will be nudge out. We'll call this nudge in. Maybe in like that. All right, so we have nudge out, and there are keyframes. And that one moves down. We want it to go up a tiny bit. So
Oh, you can even animate color.
I'm going to go, yeah, -40. That. So instead of plus 40 to bring it down, I just did minus 40 to take it up.
So you couldn't just time reverse the keyframe?
I would recommend using ramp up and ramp down before time reversing the keyframes.
Okay.
Let's see what would happen if I did ramp up and then select the keyframes, time reverse. So-
You did something.
Yeah, so then let's see what happens if we do ramp down.
If you time reverse,
So you see that if I did ramp down and time reverse, then the left-hand side
Yeah.
goes up before the right-hand side.
if you do a time reverse, it basically mirrors the motion in the opposite direction.
Yeah. So instead of that,
But
we'll
you'd have
do,
to leave it as ramp up.
I feel like we're giving away the fact that we are an alien race of space worms by the motion of the text.
It's not a bit of a caterpillar line to it.
Yeah.
It's cool.
But it looks fairly welcoming, I'll say. Okay, one more fun thing.
Expression. Here comes the expression.
No expression yet. Oh no, there is an expression. There is an expression. There's something about text animators that I don't fully understand yet, but I understand it enough to have some exciting things happen. So I'm going to open Safari here, and I'm going to go to gracewaymedia.com and show you a Christmas graphic that we recently did. This guy, Christmas service times. Okay, so Christmas service times came to me as Photoshop text with these letters at different tones. Okay, so every other letter is kind of tonally matches these things here. When I was prepping the product download and animate themselves, put in their own text, I didn't want them to have to go through and select each letter and say, well, this is supposed to be this green, this is supposed to be this green. I need it to be a little bit easier for them. Some of them may be advanced enough to worry about it, but a lot of them are just kind of starting out with After Effects and want to be able to change the text and be done with it. So there is a way to do that, and that is with Text Animator Expressions. Thank you, Demian, for reminding me. All right.
Gotcha.
Gotcha. This isn't a gotcha. This is a, oh yeah.
Just people.
All right. So in order to do this, and maybe we'll look at.
I'm expressing myself.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Came it on.
Maybe we will look at a little bit of color, possibly see how this works. Okay, so I need to put in a text animator, and it doesn't matter really exactly which one. We'll do saturation to start with, and just see what happens, because I need to get the text animator and I need to get the saturation, but I don't need the range selector. Okay, the range selector lets me select the range with which I'm adjusting things. Okay, And that is neat. I mean, you can do obviously some fun things here. But I don't want the range selector. That's not the thing that's going to get this done for me. What's really going to get it done for me is to do a selector expression. Okay. And instead of this being, well, it may not matter right now. What this does is it looks at the index of either the characters or the words or the lines. Okay. It has a little expression here that it drops in for you and allows you to do stuff. But the issue is that you've got to write an expression here that can be read by the text animator and have it know what to do with that. And there's not a whole lot of documentation out there for this. Dan Eberts on MotionScript has something that will allow you to do like a swing and bounce or something like that. So we'll search MotionScript. Let's see if that works for us.
That's how you search in a website.
You can do it with, it actually works better inside Chrome to do that.
Okay, with the backslash.
No, if you just type, I'll even show you.
Oh, you just type the URL and then search after it.
So MotionScript.com and then space and animator. It finds the page that has whatever that is. All right.
Nice.
Let's see. The phrase over here. We'll search for text index. Okay, and then here we'll search for index, and I think this is it. Like that. Okay. So we come in here and we copy that, paste it here, and then we put a scale on there. Okay, so that's pretty cool.
How does that work?
I have no idea, guys. I don't know. If you can figure it out and explain it to me, then I'll be totes haps with you. I'll be very, very pleased. All right.
Did that expression just give you the bounce, or did it also give you the random characters?
I think this is also the random.
Look,
See,
it has
there's
delay,
the
so we have
random. There's the random right there.
start variables.
But you can even, let's do, instead of scale, we'll do per character 3D, and we'll do a rotation, and we'll say X. That's 90. I wish I had a GIF of somebody's mind being blown. Now, if you don't want it to come from the bottom like that, this is something you need to know about text animators. You can change your, not your path. We'll look at path in just a sec. You can change your grouping alignment. So right now we're per character, and I can take my, basically my anchor point and move it up to the top of the text like that. And if I do that, it swings down.
Nice.
Okay.
Now, what value is that expression returning?
John, I'm gonna need you to research that for me. It interacts with
It doesn't look like it's returning an array.
right. So it interacts with the index of each letter, and each letter index gets the expression at its time, at its proper time. Now, again,
Is there any loops in there? I don't see any loops.
now, I'm telling you, man, you need to go look at this and learn it, and then come teach us about it. Because I've tried and I don't get it yet. Like, I mean, I get a lot of stuff and I don't get this. Back to the task at hand. Now that you know that something lives out there that's going to keep you up at night, we'll go forward. Okay, so I'm going to put the expression selector back on there. And let's see. Oh, I can just, no, I can't do that anymore because it got rid of the default expression. Okay, so it populates with this default expression. All right. And we can see that I have a text index here. And something that you guys need to know about is the modulus. All right, modulus is just the percent sign. Okay, and modulus allows you to do a kind of a resetting. It's almost like a looping opportunity. It is basically like if you were going to send something around to 360 degrees, that every time it gets to the from 359 to 360, it resets to 0. Okay, and we're going to look at it again in just a minute with our shape layers, but it's kind of a reset. So if I say modulus 2, then when it gets to it's a dividing by, is this evenly divisible by 2, then the answer is true. If it's not evenly divisible by 2, the answer is false. So you can kind of use this moving forward to your advantage if you want something, if you want to layer index to tell something whether or not it needs to be on or off. You can say, is my index modulus 2 divided by 2? And if it is, turn me off. So there's more to that, like further on into expressions. But right now, we're going to say, and I think this is going to get us there, text index modulus 2, like that. And we'll see if we just mess with some stuff here. It could be that I need this whole thing modulus 2. I'll get it. I'll get it. Don't worry. Is it the whole thing? Okay, we'll get it. I promise. Value modulus 2. Sorry about this, guys. I promise I've done this before, and if I can't get it, I might just go open the project up. Okay, we're going to go find the project. And here, title, this is Christmas service times. This, you guys get to watch After Effects import some stuff. Okay. So there's my text that is, that's this guy here and this guy here that is using that expression. So if I double click there and I say Christmas goody times or Christmas times,
Or Christmas Grinchy time.
Grinchy times. Yeah, so there you go. I was putting it in the right spot. I'm not sure why we're having problems.
Did you combine it with last year's snow?
No, this was this year's snow. All right, so let's figure out why we're having problems.
Is it your option?
It looks like I need to use a range selector. Is that what's going on? No. Wow, this is very exciting, guys. Don't go to sleep, Jeremy. Don't go to sleep. And maybe it's that this needs to be animated. That's the deal is. Guess not. And there is a little bit of silence happening. Well, I feel like I should have researched this. I thought I knew it.
You don't gotcha.
This is a gotcha.
Trent, remember a couple sessions ago about how we were animating to sound?
Uh-huh.
Can that apply to this? So you import the track and
Mm-hmm. And you have it do something based on sound? That is a very good question.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to link the offset to your amplitude of the wave file or whatever.
Yeah.
Or whatever aspect of the wave file you're trying to follow.
Yeah, so you would probably use your range, your 0 to 100 range, and tighten your range up, and then animate the offset based on the amplitude of whatever frequency. And then you could duplicate that and apply it to a different range of values. Does that make sense? Maybe we could work on
You
that.
could do all kinds of stuff. You could wiggle the range.
Yeah.
So it grabs different letters at
Yeah.
different times.
Yeah. Okay, so
oh, and now it's done.
I failed on that one, guys. Apologize. We're just ebbing and flowing with it. Okay. Right now, we're going to go do shape layers. So I'm going to delete all that and just make a new comp here called shape layers 1. And I'm going to show you some fun things you can do with shape layers. All right. The first thing is a snowflake creator. All right. No, that's not going to be the first thing because that's a little more advanced. The first thing is going to be shape layers that can interact with each other and using shape layers to loop animation. Okay. So the very first thing I do when I create a shape layer is double click this tool up here. You have to have everything else deselected, otherwise you'll create a mask. But I double click to get my shape layer because it puts a bounding box that fills the screen, right? I can also do that with an ellipse tool and like that, and just easy to create it, and it puts it in the center of the screen, all right? Then I twirl down my path and reset my size. If I want a circle, I'll just set that like that. If I want a square, just twirl down my path and set my size like that. Actually, I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller. And what we're going to do is create a looping line of squares, okay, that can just loop indefinitely, because a bunch of nerds are coming, so we want to have squares up on the screen because nerds like squares. Nerds are squares, right? Am I right, guys?
You are correct, though.
Uh,
What's that song?
You win.
It's hit to be square.
Trent,
Yes, sir.
you know, nerds don't exist. There's no such thing.
Everybody can be a nerd, man. You can be a nerd about skateboards, and you can be a nerd about accounting. You can be a nerd about.
Yeah, but that's just a bad title.
It's
There
a.
are only
I think
people.
it's a good title.
There are nerds in Vegas.
All right.
Nerds in Vegas.
So I've got my square. I've got my square, and I'm going to. I want more squares, okay? But I want them to be lined up well. I want them to be equidistant, and I want them to be able to animate easily. So I could come in here and create another square, duplicate this, and find my position. And I know that my square is centered up, and it's 200 pixels across. So I could say instead of 640, I could just add 200. Sorry, that didn't add 200. I want to add plus, yeah, come on, plus 200. There we go. And it's moved over, but let's say I want a little more than that, so I'll add 10. Okay, so that's good. And I want another one, so I'll duplicate that, and I'll hit P. I'll come here, and I know it's going to be 210 plus 210, like that. But I'm already bored, okay, because of all my duplicating. So what I'm going to do is add here a repeater. Okay. And this repeater is going to let me do some fun things with this. So my position is 100 pixels over. I'm just going to add to that. There, so 210. We saw that 210 was kind of what I had earlier. Adding to each of the positions, but these copies here mean that it's going to give me another square at 210 pixels over every time I do that. And I can, I can do my y-axis, positive, negative. I can do rotation. So every time it creates a new square, it adds to the rotation of it. Okay. I can have opacity where it, it starts transparent and builds the further it goes. Okay, so those are just fun things I can do. I can also offset. So every time I go one integer, one full whole number, then it goes to the next place in the creation series there. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is scoot
Looks
back.
like Stacker.
Yeah, I'm going to scoot back over here like this.
Wow.
And I'm going to create a few more like that. And so now if I change the offset, you can see that they're going to move side to side. If I any incremental inside the offset, any decimal places that move toward the next whole number move in a smooth incremental way, changing the position. It's basically interpolating between the position from one to the next, okay? So now that we have that, do -1 and then scoot it back that way. Now that we have that knowledge, we can, if we want, animate from -4 to, let's say -3, like that, and loop that. Like that. All right, so now it looks like an infinite row of boxes. And I only have 8 boxes that are just animating from this one whole number to the next whole number in my offset. Okay. If I change here my distance between my keyframes, I can slow it down. And After Effects does the math.
Make it start and stop at the right points again. What numbers did you use?
Whole numbers.
Okay.
Okay, so the first whole number is -4. I've offset it -4 this way, and I've created enough boxes with my repeater, my copies, to where when I get over here, you can see, if I show you correctly, I should be able to see the whole bounding box of this thing. I guess not. But as it moves over to the left, and actually, let me show you what it looks like here. So when it gets to the end there, it just pops a new box up over here on the left-hand side and detracts a box here. Okay, so that's what it's doing off screen, but we can't see that because we've covered that up. This is our magic we're doing.
Yep.
All right, but
Okay, Mr. Houdini.
it's time to do expressions. Okay, you know you're ready for it, Demian. You know you're ready.
Do modulus on that?
Yeah, I'm going to do a modulus here. I'm going to do my my time offset, and I'll draw on the board. So if you're watching this online, you just have to show up at the meeting next time. The expression is
You're gonna have to add a board game.
here. Board game. Yeah. The expression is units divided by amount of time in whole numbers. That's units divided by amount of time in whole numbers times time. Okay, this time here just is read by After Effects as what's my current time. All right. So what this does, let's say I want to do a loop in my rotation of 360 degrees over 10 seconds. I use whole numbers, okay, because After Effects sees seconds as whole numbers. I say times time, like that. And if I start at the beginning of the count and just let that play, After Effects will continue to add 360 degrees to my rotation every 10 seconds. All right? Everybody follow me?
Yeah.
Okay. For this over here, if I want to do 1 unit, which is the every whole unit is an offset in my repeater, then I would do 1 divided by, say I want it to happen over 3 seconds, 3 times time. Okay, so every 3 seconds, it'll move from this position to the next full position. Right? And After Effects will do the math smoothly for me, so it just maintains forward progress
no hitching or anything like that. Now, the extra bit of this, the modulus part, comes in where I put everything here inside parentheses, like this, and then I do a modulus of 1, because I don't need to go any more than 1. It's going to move from 0 to 1 and then reset, like that. Okay, you saw on here that it is, when I was doing those keyframes and looping, it would get over and reset, and move and reset, and move and reset. But I needed my keyframes to do that. So let's put this expression in so you can see what it does.
So you're doing that so you don't have to set your in and out point to be only the length of one animation.
Correct.
I got it.
And if I'm using keyframes, the keyframes potentially can cause a hitch. Like if I'm trying to loop the keyframes, maybe I'm not looping them properly. Maybe I'm at 23.976 or 29.997, and there's like a half frame somewhere. So After Effects will take care of that for me if I just do the math correctly. All right. So I said 1 unit divided by 3 seconds times time. And I'll just let you see what it does otherwise if I don't do the modulus. Okay. We'll take a look at this number down here to start with. So and we can look here at the expression. Okay, so you see that After Effects is doing that math and giving me a solid motion through time like this. All right. And every 3 seconds, it starts at 0, and every 3 seconds, it's 1 unit. So there's 1, and when it gets to 6, right there, it's 2. All right. So now what we have to do is add the modulus, and we'll just enclose everything here. The modulus of 1. Okay. Now it doesn't matter how far out I stretch this guy. He will loop every time. Okay, now the reason we can see what's going on is because we haven't added back in our offset, our original offset, which is -4. So what I'm going to do is tell this to be t, that's the time offset, and I'll just do value plus t. Value is this number in here, this -4, and it's going to add that offset to it. Okay. So now we're playing forward.
Plus T.
I did plus value plus t.
Okay.
Now, if you wanted to go the other direction, you just do value minus t.
Nice.
Okay, so it's getting to that loop point and smoothly looping.
That's smoother. So that's better than the loop.
Because
It's-
it's better calculated.
Expression.
Yeah, it's calculated by After Effects instead of by me, right? And then, I mean, you can get controls and all this kind of stuff set up. So if I know that I want this thing to change at some point,
Yeah.
and I'm not exactly sure what this needs to be, I can select here and do an expression control slider. And right now we're at 3. I'll come in here and add to my expression S equals, and S is just going to be pick whip to this slider. Okay. So I kept it the same, but the client said, no, I don't want it to be every 3 seconds. It's too fast. I want it to be every 5 seconds.
Sure. That'd be 5,000.
Yep. Okay. So now it's a little slower, and every 5 seconds you can see that it's a whole number here. Or the client says that's way too slow. Let's do 1 second. $1,000. And what they're paying for is they're paying for my knowledge and efficiency, because I can do stuff like this quickly and get them their product faster, and they need to be paying a premium for that kind of thing. Okay. How much is it worth to them?
You can also
So-
do interesting things like keyframing the slider, then have the rate
Yeah.
change over time.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what this
So-
makes me think of? Do you remember the choices on the decay on trap code? Just like you made this one, that's one choice of the decay. But then there's others.
Not talk to me again about that.
Remember you know trap code?
Uh-huh.
So on trap code, they don't have the expression. They have a visual representation of the decay, like this one, like we're.
Oh, yeah.
Remember those?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we change this expression, then it'll act different.
Correct. So you want to see that? Like this? I can say 3.
No, but not just in this. Not just in this. Not just using this equation. I mean, it works for this for the animation, right? But it's applicable to any.
Yeah. Are you talking about just to be able to see this? Or what are you talking about?
Being able to, because you're using only a percentage of the. In other words, yes, your graphical representation for this particular animation works, but these animators, given the correct equation, you can create other patterns, other
Yes.
forms of decay, basically.
Okay. I'm not positive I know what you're going at, but I'm sure it's wonderful. Think about it and let me know. So with this, we can also add to the repeater things like,
Hey,
Hey.
let me write down what you're saying, and I'll try to explain it to him.
so I can add a rotation here. Like this.
It's cool that that still loops even though they've been rotated. Like,
Mhm.
I guess I wouldn't have expected that to work.
And we have the scale, and we have, like, we can change our anchor point to get it to do some cooler stuff, maybe. The only thing that has a problem usually is the opacity. Let's see if it has problems this time. Yeah.
Right? I didn't see the problem.
Yeah, it pops right there.
Oh, yeah.
But everything else works smoothly.
That's cool.
Basically.
All right. So repeaters can help you with a lot of stuff. I mean, if you're going to build an American flag, you can grab a star tool here and can squinch this guy down like so. And come here like this, set a repeater. That. I'm just gonna
Take it, you've made many a background move with this.
I have, Stephen. So then I've got this repeater and I've got a polystar. All I need to do is add a group here and drop these two guys, in the group like that. And then I can add another repeater and repeat the group.
Nice. Good way to make a grid.
Like that. And now if I math it up correctly, then I can get, nice angles and get everything spaced well. And then if I set my copies up correctly, there, I want to do my copies here and do my offset. That. Do t equals 1 divided by 3 times time. Value plus t. And because it's 3, I can set my comp to 6 seconds. I might need one more star. Let's do 2. So now I have a set of looping stars that are all created by one shape layer and 2 repeaters.
That's awesome. Very cool.
And I can select this and go to animation. Right, no, I gotta open this up and do a bunch of selecting like that. And then say animation, save animation preset. And it'll stick it in my little window over here. And then I can go recall this anytime I need to. Just
And
drop it in.
Like you would make those stars.
Yeah,
You would do exactly that.
it'll do exactly that.
Oh, cool.
Let me see if I have anything over here. So I'm going to create another
Where
set
would you
of
find it?
inside.
Transcomputer.
No. So what you can do is you can create your own folders inside your text presets and save your stuff inside there. And then you would just go back here and recall it from there. All right. So if I
So where is the save animation preset button again?
up here under animation, save animation preset.
Okay.
Okay. It's you really need to play around with it and make sure you get everything. But so we've been talking about text animators. I created a bunch of text animators here. So blur fade characters in. Time for my composition a little bit longer here. Okay, so my character animator or my text animator came from here. Just animates that in. Now I don't have to use that Adobe After Effects text. I can put my own text in there. Like awesome. Double click.
Wherever I put my time marker and double click, that's where the keyframes start. So if I want it to start at the beginning, I need to move that over. Like so. And then I can do characters fade, blur, fade out, like that. I need to select this. Double click. Fade in, and then they fade out.
All it needs next to it is the word dude.
Yeah.
Well, the nice thing about that text blur is that you're not
Yes.
you're not trying to. It's a fake depth of depth
Yeah,
of
it's
field,
pretending to have
So
depth
it's
of
a
field.
lot easier to process than actually setting up the camera.
Yeah.
Doing all that.
And then I can remove those guys like that. And then do cinematic words in.
Star Wars.
And then cinematic words out. Except I need to select it again.
Does Adobe save those that you make in the Creative Cloud now? So like if you want to pull it up on the machine, or is that all in a folder somewhere away in your library?
It is on. It is in my After Effects presets library.
I wonder if there's a way to.
So it lives presets and lives here.
Okay.
So it
So then for
I need to. I'll look into that. I'll look into that and see if it can go library.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I know that when you upgrade to like 2015 or whatever, it'll ask you to want to migrate your user settings over.
Yeah. So I'm going to delete that animator, and we have another one over here. That cinematic word zoom through, and it has a few things that happen here. Like that.
It's so weird seeing easy easing with like harsh keyframes.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's one more thing that you can do with your text animate. No, sorry, your shape layers. But I think we're about out of time.
What?
Let's see if I can do this in just a couple minutes. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do some text here that says tilt shift. And it's easier to see probably what this does if you're on an image, but we'll start with this. And I'm going to come up to my rectangle tool, and got this tip from John Ruiz. You option click the color here, and it changes to gradient, to radial, to none, back to solid. Okay. So I'm going to do a gradient fill, double click. And if I have my bounding boxes on, my viewer tiddlies in there, then I can see my gradient here like this. But I want my gradient to be either black, white, black, or white, black, white. So I'll come here like this, set this to 50, and then make a white there like that. I want this to be a little bit fuzzier on the
Send me an image if you want.
outsides like that. No, I mean, I have some. I might be, maybe we'll drop one in just a minute. So I can, because of the way After Effects renders shape layers, I can leave this shape layer in here and turn it off and use it as the map for my compound blur, like
that.
Nice.
Okay. So again, I didn't pre-comp this. Normally, if you're going to create a map, you either have to create it somewhere else and bring it in, or you have to create it in a pre-comp and then use it in your composition. Okay. But
What kind of map do you use that as for the tilt shift?
this is a compound blur map. It is a Luma map.
Okay.
Okay. Because I'm using black and white values and gray. Now, very important to remember that you can use this inside your comp. The other thing is, let's undo compound blur there and add a camera lens blur, because I can use, this is my blur map, like that. The camera lens blur might look a little bit better for you. Now, I turned it off. I turned this off so I didn't have to see that in my shot. All right. If I put it behind something, that's reasonable. But a lot of times I like to keep things near each other so I can get to them easily. And I'll just call this tilt shift Luma map. I'm glad I didn't misspell that. So what I'm going to do now is do my opacity here. And turn my opacity to 0. And I'll show you why I did that. So if I twirl down my rectangle, see, I can see my gradient handles here. If I turn off the eyeball, I can't see my gradient handles. All right, so I can still use this no matter where it is. I can still use this as my map and see my gradient handles
That's awesome.
without having to, stick it down at the bottom of a 20 layer stack or whatever. Now, I do recommend probably, I had an invalid text transaction. What in the whole world?
The bank account is now empty.
No, guys, I gotta go. Guys.
Yo, broke, bro.
Gotcha.
Is there a way to lock the position of that shape letter so you don't accidentally move it?
Lock it in place here.
Yeah,
What is it?
There's a
expression that maybe.
no, not as far as if I move my layer, it'll go with it.
Well,
But someone has created-
Lock the layer.
I mean, yeah, I can lock it like that.
I just meant
Don't
just
go
the
anywhere.
position.
Position of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's covering the entire frame.
Uh-huh.
So you could very easily click on it and drag it around by accident.
Yes, I think you're right about that. So if I deselect and grab, it'll drag it around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just locking it with the
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
with the lock button there will do that, and now I can't grab it.
Yeah.
What are you doing to pull up opacity in another window?
I do Shift Command O.
And that helps because it gets you can type the value without having to click on it.
Yep.
Nice.
So if I'm going to go to the opacity, I can either twirl here and twirl here, or I can just do T for opacity and then click here and do that, or I can just do Shift Command O and type my value in.
Shift Command O, but it's T.
Yeah, it's opacity.
Transparency.
Yeah.
It was taken, okay.
I was thinking.
Is there a shift command for other properties?
Yes, I think rotation has Shift Command R, and position is Shift Command P, but I don't think scale does anything. Scale is save as. I'm not sure why they decided to futz that up, but it is what it is.
Thank you. That's all.
And also, you saw here that if I grab this LumaMat layer and move it around,
that it kind of looks like I'm looking through a window, a foggy window, right? So I could bring my opacity back up and use it like a piece of glass.
You know what you can do with that is like if you had a shot where you were kind of tracking up to a window,
Yeah, shot tracking to a window, huh?
you could track that to the window pane
Yeah,
and make imperfections in the glass.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I can also grab my text, and when I'm scooted over, you'll see that it changes the changes the blur based on just where this static gradient
What a great
is.
shift in perspective.
Yes, it is. All right, so that's it, guys. If you want to stick a, do that, stick a picture in there, and you can do a tilt shift on a picture. Tilt shift may be old now. I don't know. I still think tilt shift's pretty cool. A lot of nods. Okay,
I like it.
from nods from people over 30. No, Steve, are you over 30 yet?
Well, I'm 30.
Dang it.
So is that over 30?
No, I guess tilt shift is out now since everybody over 30 liked it. No, thank you guys so very much for coming to the Dallas After Effects user group. I will say here that if you go to facebook.com/groups/Dallas AEUG.
That's too
that.
big.
Too big.
/dead.